Hello and welcome to episode 2 of season 2 of Cowboys Takeover podcast. Man, I want to say it's a beautiful day to be here. It's showing sign a little bit. Weather's getting warmer here up in South Jersey, and the birds are chirping. So it's right. Baseball season starting. That means the draft's right around the corner. In fact, it's the end of this month. But right now we are in free agency mode, and the one issue that I think, and there's no other way to say it other than off-season negligence by the Dallas Cowboys. The lack of moves that they've made this offseason, and last year where we were, you had a historic season. They were blowing out teams at home, putting up points. They were just destroying teams to San Fran, but you felt confident going in the playoffs. And then the stink bomb that was that game against the Green Bay Packers in Jerry World, okay? And we blow it. Like, it wasn't close at all. The score of that game was not indicative of how close that game was. They were putrid. And then you come into the offseason and you lose, 2/3, either 2/5 or 3/5 of your offensive line. You lose your running back, which I'm not too concerned about. You're losing Gilmore. You lost Van Der Esch because of the injury. Yeah, he has to retire. And you only bring in Eric Kendrick. And we'll get into, the players that Green Bay signed. Eagles have signed. The Detroit Lions have signed. Teams that we're trying to be on par with in this conference, frankly, and now number one seed is more important than ever, knowing you get that bye week. These teams are signing, but you got teams. Let's just listen to you. Look at this. I can't put the graphic up, but the Carolina Panthers. How bad the Carolina Panthers were last year. They go out, trade for Deontay Johnson. They spend over $150 million to bring in 3 new offensive linemen. They go out and spend another $130 million for their defensive line. The Carolina Panthers are doing this, and we're a team that's trying to compete for a Super Bowl, and you bring in nobody to replace what we lost. And you can't figure out Dak's situation. I don't think I'm overreacting. I'm going to bring in my co-host, and my co-host is one that's, listen, me and him are good together because he's a little more optimistic than I am. I would say a lot more. I tend to lean more, the Super Bowls are great. We haven't done nothing recently, and I tend to see how bad it is. So it's tough for me to see the positive, where my co-host, he loves to see the positive. Even last season, he was he was sunshines and rainbows. Even when I was down, he got me on that Dak train. So I'm going to bring him in, Mr. Aaron James. I want to say hello. How are you today? Let's before we go into this, how are you feeling today? How are you doing?
Hey, Jason. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, and I appreciate the tone you set for this episode.
It's just, I'm just trying to bring it because that's how I'm feeling right now. We've done nothing. How great you were last year, and the last 3 seasons, how our season has ended, and last year actually feels worse than it ending against San Fran 2 years in a row. That Green Bay game was so much worse than the loss of the San Fran teams, because the San Fran teams, they were better than us. You can say we were on par, but at least if not, on par, San Fran was probably a better team. Even when we played them at home, I still believe they were, because, where they were trending. Green Bay, no, you weren't. Green Bay was not the better team. Dallas was far and beyond the better team. You're usually the optimistic guy. You can't. I don't think you can sit here and even be optimistic about this offseason so far and what we've seen from the leadership of the Cowboys.
So there's a couple aspects, because we have the talent aspect and we have the coaching aspect. I think you would agree that the Green Bay game was more of a coaching aspect than the player aspect. We just seemed to be out-schemed We couldn't slow down Jordan Love. They did whatever they wanted to do. I get the players are out there, but you see how wide open the receivers were. And I don't, want to get into that game. But ultimately, I think our gap, the roster for last year, there's too big of a gap with coaching. Even though we won 12 games and we blew out, poor teams, we really had no. I can't think of a win off the top of my head that we could hang our hat on. I mean, the Eagles,
even the Detroit win was suspect. You lost. Even the
yeah,
Detroit win, you lost.
Yeah.
See, there's the optimism right there. That's what I'm talking about.
No, like CeeDee fumbled into the end zone that game, right?
He did.
So you have that, but even in a year where you have Dak and CeeDee hitting stride and becoming a top at least for the year, becoming a top QB wide receiver.
100%. And my contention was CeeDee I thought he was more MVP worthy than Dak. That's where I put CeeDee last year. So it's a great point.
I think that's fair. So if you look at our offseason, we've taken a hit with the roster and the talent. I am excited that we brought in Mike Zimmer, someone that's a little bit more traditional, that's going to get in the faces of these players. I'm really curious, actually, we haven't talked about what type of friction may come between him and Parsons, right? If he doesn't like what he sees, whether it be from a technique perspective, executing on the scheme.
I think Zimmer's going to let him go. I actually think Zimmer's going to let this kid eat this season. Like we haven't seen, like he's gotten better each season, but I still don't think we've seen the best of him. And I think we do with Zimmer. I think it's going to be the greatness factor. Like Zimmer's a very good defensive coordinator. So I think that's going to push Mike into that next level.
Okay. I think I would caution more on the fact of them not getting along.
Okay.
Because you got, someone in their early 20s, and then you have this old timer coming in with, again, the traditional in your face, I don't care what you think, you listen to me, and I know what I'm doing type of mentality. So all that to say, we do have some gaps in the talent pool. And when it comes to improving our team from free agency, we handcuffed ourselves. And I don't see how we can replenish what we lost through a draft class.
I don't think you can. I don't know. Your late 20s, that's typically you're probably going to go after offensive linemen, I would think. They're probably going to have to go offensive line. At this point, you went DT last year. It's probably, offensive line or middle linebacker, I would think, in the first round this year. And you kind of you put yourself in a corner of what you can do because of what you've lost, especially on that offensive line.
Right. And I mean, at this point, we're not the best team in our division.
No, it's just like, come on. It just bothered. Like, Dallas signed Eric Kendricks. That's the only signing they had of somebody that was not a Dallas Cowboy. That is pathetic. Like, I'm sitting here all offseason. I remember, they haven't made a trade. I remember they got Gilmore last year. You're excited going into the draft. There's potential. This offseason, I can't remember an offseason these last few years not really being excited to go into the season knowing what we've got. Because it's not like we have that big pick where we can go get Micah, where we're going to get CeeDee Lamb. Outside of trading up for a quarterback, which I 100% don't think they do, there's nothing to be excited about. Look at our division. The Eagles go out and get Saquon Barkley. They go out and get Bryce Huff, who I don't know if he's going to be that guy, but they went out and got him. They signed the dude we wanted, Devin White. They brought back CJ Gardner-Johnson. You look at a team like Detroit, who was, right there as well, right? They had a shot to make the Super Bowl. They go out and sign and get linebackers, sign defensive linemen, DJ Reader is a very good player. They trade for Carlton Davis, who is a very good cornerback and has Super Bowl experience with the Bucs. So these other teams are just getting better. Green Bay went out, and I don't know why, but they signed a running back in Josh Jacobs, who is a pretty big workhorse. He's probably the most workhorse outside of Henry I think we have today. And you see all these other teams just go, and Green Bay's so young, and the Eagles forget it. As easy it was to make fun of the Eagles at the end of last season. You forget they started out 10-0, and people had them as Super Bowl like number 1 rated team in the NFL with the team they had. And I think the biggest change, I think even bigger than Saquon, bigger than Devin White, is going and getting Kellen Moore. That is such an underrated move. Because I know I was very upset. I would much rather have let McCarthy go and put Kellen Moore as head coach. But he, whether we believe what happened, he left. So I think he's going to help that Eagles offense that really seemed to lack at the end of last year. He gives you so many different looks and can do so much. And it's just, I don't know what Dallas is doing. It's just so frustrating because they haven't done anything. You haven't done anything but Eric Kendricks. Like, yeah, you got a middle linebacker, but it's not, and he's not even the guy you really. There's so many other better linebackers you could have went out and got, and you signed Eric Kendricks. Well,
he
your
knows
division's getting better.
He knows the system.
He does know.
He knows Zimmer, so
knows
there's going to be some value add there. Apparently, he's one of the smarter linebackers out there. Really high IQ. I think there's a lot to be excited about with him. But we definitely need Mozzie Smith to step up in a big way. And
I thought for sure Hankins would be back.
You would think Hankins would be back. We lose big boy Hank. So that's going to be a problem. All in all, if we have, we have Dak, we got Fergie, we got CeeDee. We'll see who our RB1 is by the time the season rolls around. We know we might pick up an RB in round 2 of the draft, which is pretty high. But let's just say, for argument's sake, we know, we find ourselves at another 12-win season. We're still going to lack a lot of confidence going into the playoffs.
100%. Like that. Like, I never thought I would sigh when someone's like 12-win season, but I'm like, that feels like McCarthy normal, and that's why Green Bay got rid of him, because outside the one magical year Aaron was able to get him to the Super Bowl, he was a 12-4 or 12-4 guy, and he just never could do it. And that's what he's shown to be in Dallas, and it's so frustrating because you've seen this from afar before. Why? Because we are big NFL fans. We've seen this from him. Anybody that's watching NFL knows why Green Bay got rid of him, and he's doing the same damn thing here in Dallas, and it's so frustrating to see.
Well, let me ask you this, just from a different angle on what might be going through Jerry Jones's head. And I'm not sure if you've ever saw the documentary, but Tony Romo and Parcells are sitting in front of Jerry. They offered Romo a contract, and Romo says, "I'm not going to get on that field with that number. I need more." And they concede to give him more. And Jerry Jones is quoted saying that's our guy, that's our quarterback.
I have heard that story. I love that story.
Is there an element here where Jones is saying, I need Dak to play with all his chips in, and I want to see what I get out of him without the big contract and the pressure. I want to see that he can play under these circumstances.
My only issue with that is you hamstring yourself so much for this season.
Mm-hmm.
And going, like, to me, is that worth it? Like, whether...
Well, that's the question. Is it worth...
I don't know. If he wins a Super Bowl, I guess you say yes. But I don't think... Is this roster it's not even, like you said, it's not the best roster in our own division. So it's really tough. You're really putting a lot on Dak, who in the biggest moments has to me, his career is long enough. I've seen enough from him starting up, not being a very good quarterback. You go out and get him Amari Cooper. He starts to figure it out because he has a wide receiver 1. You transition Amari to CeeDee Lamb boom, there's that transition. He has a wide receiver one to that protective blanket. I saw what he was without that protective blanket, and I've even seen what he is with that protective blanket in the playoffs in those big situations. I've seen it. I don't buy it. I would let him go. Like if this, to me, this is more of a, I don't think we're going to pay the guy. We're going in a different direction, is what I'm thinking. Unless he gets you a Super Bowl. The only way I see Dak coming back, he's got to get you a Super Bowl.
Even if he's an MVP candidate or wins
Don't care.
MVP.
No, you have to win. You have to win a Super for Dak to come. If they don't, yeah, because I don't. Can they sign him during the season? I don't know if you can. So to me, if he goes in, if he finishes this season without a contract, he's not going to be a Cowboy next year. And I don't even think Dallas will sign him in this season. I think he hits free agency. The only way Dallas brings him back, I don't care if it's MVP, Peyton Manning breaking records type of season. If he doesn't win a Super Bowl, you can't come back here.
Okay. Now, I don't want a rookie quarterback coming in, even if we have the number 1 overall seed. I'm not sold on Caleb Williams. It's always a high risk, right? In the draft. You never know how these things are going to pan out. And I've always referenced the Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. Those are the two guys I was most excited about in the last decade or decade plus. And you see how their careers transpired.
Dude, I was so excited about Brady Quinn.
So
I really wanted the Cowboys to draft him. I was so mad that Romo had that good season because Brady Quinn didn't become a Cowboy. Romo worked out definitely better, though.
And then you see how Dak turns out. You see how Pat Mahomes turned out, even someone like a Josh Allen. So with all that, you're likely going to pull someone that's in the bottom 15 in the league to come in and try to revitalize their career. Who are we going to get? Who are we going to bring in?
So I don't know how true. I don't know if they heard something. I read a rumor earlier that Dallas could be looking at Penix Jr. They really could be looking at a quarterback in the draft. I don't know if you take one. I don't know where they're 27, 28. I don't know if you take one that low. I don't trust Caleb Williams. I don't know if I'm I don't trade up to go get one of those guys. If somebody falls for some reason, then you have to think about it. I'd be okay with a gap year and, putting all your chips in. If there's a guy you really want, getting a gap year if you have to go without, and you go get a Derek Carr, a Jameis Winston type of quarterback, a guy that I know can sling it around the yard. And if you get lucky and you're able, because you're rid of Dak and that type of contract, to put pieces on that defense to where it doesn't have to be just Jameis throwing it around the offense. If you can set him up in a good situation, I think you're put yourself in a better position. The Dak thing really hamstrings you, though. I don't know what because you're paying him $60 million this year. But I think you could find a stopgap journeyman quarterback that if you get the right pieces, you could do something okay while you transition to that quarterback.
Okay. But then you got CD in the prime of his career. I think what we can learn so far from this season, for those who might be unfamiliar with the Stephon Diggs trade, part of that trade was a restructured contract with the wide receiver that he becomes a free agent at the end of this year. So it's essentially a one-year deal. Yeah, it's essentially a one-year deal. And you allow him to prove himself to get another contract long-term, reset the market, whatever the case may be. So he's incentivized to do quite well. Why not go out and try to bring in a Devontae Adams with something like that?
If you could, I would think about it. If you could, but for this season, I don't know if you could afford it. That's the problem. I don't know where, because they're well under, they would have to work something out with. I don't know if you can do something with Dak where it can be like a guarantee. Because it's all guaranteed. So I don't know how you get rid of some of that to bring in a Devontae Adams. But to me, even with the Devontae Adams, I don't think this defense is a Super Bowl defense. Mozzie Smith does not, he does stop to run a little bit, can't really get to the quarterback. You don't have outside of It's not really Parsons. You hope Lawrence, but he's another year older. You don't know what you have at linebacker. You're losing Gilmore, who I think played really well for you. You have to hope Bland has a historic type of season. Like there's all those things went right for Dallas this season, and they still got bounced in the first round. And their defense is worse, and their offensive line's worse. So it's just a lot. There's so much. To me, it can't be an athlete. It's got to be a guy in the trenches if you're looking to bring someone in.
Yeah. Well, so when it comes to, just Dak, so I talked about being in Jerry's position and how he may be viewing this, putting the pressure on Dak and hope it produces a diamond. But from Dak's seat, right, he's 30 years old. He's probably going to get, I don't know if he's thinking 2 or 3 more contracts, depending on the number of years.
He could definitely get 2. Yeah, I would think. Well, this one, and I think 2 more. Yeah, if he does them right.
And the thing is, you look at the longevity of Tom Brady's career. He was in the middle of the pack when it came from salary.
Yeah.
You just got to wonder where his head's at as far as how.
The one thing I hate about where everybody does, but everybody brings up Tom, people forget at the time, Tom's married to a woman that even if he was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, he could have been the highest paid player in the NFL, and his wife would still be making more money than him. So he was okay. Like he was in a position, and I think Tom's a different breed. I don't think you'll ever see a player like that great, that says, listen, I want to genuinely win. I care more about going out. The dude, 7 Super Bowls in 20 years. How many times did he play? He played more times in the NFC or the championship game for his conference than he didn't. Like he wanted to genuinely win. So I don't think you'll see another breed. The question is, if Dak does go out and put up decent, like Dak to me is still in a position to get paid, whether it's Cowboys or not. He's getting paid. We just saw Kirk Cousins get paid. So Dak doesn't need to do anything right now. Dak's in a very advantageous position for himself. If I'm Dallas, you let it play out, but I think Dak gets paid no matter what. Dak, I think, is holding the cards, because if you're Dallas and lose Dak, I don't think Dak probably makes more money going on the market than he does re-signing with Dallas.
And if you're Dak, you don't care if you're going to, I don't know, what's a bottom tier team that's going to be in the market for a quarterback after next year.
See, I think you could look at a situation. I think it's going to be tough because you don't know where, like 2 years down the road or a year down the road. But Atlanta, I think a team like that could be perfect for Dak. Because they have a lot of weapons. They have so much there. I think that's where Dak would go. There'd be a team. There's always a team that's lacking a quarterback. And Dak fits that bill. We know what he is. So I think he's going to get that big contract from a team that's a quarterback away from a Super Bowl.
Well, that's what I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think of a team that's underperformed because of their quarterback play.
I think you could look at a team. I don't know did Goff get paid at all? Because a guy like Goff, that might be a very good thing. Like him in Detroit, something like that. I don't know if he got paid. Did he?
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of sentiment between Goff and Campbell and ownership. Yeah. Right, throwing their chips in and on him. So I think he's going to be faithful to them in many ways. Atlanta gave Kirk Cousins a multi-year in Minnesota
because they signed. I think they signed Darnold for 1 year. They have the elite receiver in Jefferson. They just signed Aaron Jones, I think, to a 3 or 4 year deal. So if I'm Dak, that's a perfect spot. Like, because if I'm thinking his side, I could go. Minnesota doesn't have a quarterback. I can go there next year, and they have very talented receivers. They got a very good running back. So I think that would be a bit one to watch. I think Minnesota,
or maybe Miami if Tua
gets injured, that could definitely play out. See, to me, the question is, I really believe it's who's more valuable. Is it Dak or is it CeeDee Lamb? To me, I think that's because I think Micah has to get signed because you can't lose your star on defense. CeeDee Lamb is, I think he could be the best receiver in the NFL. He's got like in his breakouts, he broke his fourth year, killed it. He last year he showed he could be the guy that you can lean on. He led the NFL in receptions, I believe in targets as well. He had was right behind Hill in yards. So he proved he could be that guy. Who's more, in your mind, who's more valuable?
To me, Prescott's more valuable than CeeDee Lamb.
Okay. See, to me, I do think it's CeeDee Lamb because I think I don't know what my only visual of Dak without a number one receiver is really bad. Like for a couple of years before he got Cooper, wasn't good.
Well, tell me the last time. I'm trying to think of a wide receiver that stayed on top with a mediocre quarterback. Maybe Mike Evans.
Mike Evans has been through like 4 quarterbacks, and he's to me he's already a Hall of Fame receiver.
Yeah.
If you look at he went through a few. Randy Moss early on did have Cunningham and Culpepper. He didn't have great quarterbacks. I think Devontae Adams did really well with this season or last season with I guess I don't know who his quarterback was when he went to Oakland right away.
Who would you say was Terrell Owens' worst quarterback? Jeff Garcia?
No, he didn't. J.P. Losman. I'm pretty sure in Buffalo he played with J.P. Losman.
Well, that was like his last year.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. I think Jeff Garcia is better than Losman. But Jeff probably out of the big names, yeah, because Romo's definitely better. McNabb's definitely better. But yeah, JP. But he played with pretty decent. But he switched quarter. Like I think a great receiver goes to anyone. So to me,
okay,
I think a great receiver, especially in today's NFL, where the rules are so different, where you can't really touch a receiver. Mike Evans is great. Mike Evans plays no matter what time in the NFL. I don't know if CeeDee Lambs do, but in today's NFL, CeeDee Lamb proved he can do it. He knows. So, because you can't really bump into the line, I think a true number one wide receiver, because I don't think Dak is a top-tier quarterback. But that's a me thing. Like, I know a lot of people believe in Dak, but I just don't. So that's why. But there has been some rumors going around talking about CD. He is going in to they re-signed him for that fifth year option as a first-round draft pick, a potential holdout. It was reported by I think Dallas Morning News. CD's already come out and said I'll be there. I'll be in Dallas come game day. That he'll be there during not spring training. What does the NFL call it? Now I'm terrible. I'm thinking baseball season now. Preseason
camp.
There we go. Preseason camp workout. Yeah, he said he'll be there. Because to me, I really believe Dallas in a tough position. It's the Dak situation has really put them in a bind because now you have Dak coming up, you have CeeDee Lamb coming up, you have Micah coming up. It feels like these 3 people really have Dallas over a barrel. Because who's the odd man out? Because I just can't see all 3 of them getting paid. So is CD? Could any of that cross his mind that, hey, I may not stay here if I want to, I shouldn't hold out? Or do you think, hey, I hold all the cards here. You may lose Dak. You better keep me. You may lose Micah. I need to be here. Give me my money. Do you see any of that happening?
Well, I think if you're in his position, you have a couple things that you're evaluating in your mind. Number one, staying healthy. Do I think I can stay healthy for this year? And I think that's on the lower end of the totem pole because Cowboys have proven if you just think of Michael Gallup, they'll pay you, and more players are getting paid coming off a major ACL or something like that. So you're not really too worried about staying healthy. But B, am I confident I can keep my production at the highest level to reset the market? Right. So he's thinking about what his production might look like for this coming year. And if he takes a hit to no fault of his own, it could cost him some dollars. And then finally, is it important that I get the money now, or am I okay with letting this float another year and the rates are only going to go up? So, he has to take all those things into account. And then also, I guess, lastly, if he just doesn't want to be in Dallas, right, he can hold out and he
Yeah.
can say, you know what, I'm not going to sign regardless of what you bring to the table. And then Dallas has to negotiate another thing. I think another thing to be cautious of, right, when new contracts are signed, the guaranteed money, all the cash has to be secured and stowed away. So if you're guaranteeing 150 for Dak, 100 for CeeDee, let's just say 100 for Micah,
My God, yeah,
3
that's
players that you're just putting funds in an account
oh,
there. Jerry Jones is a businessman, so
he
he
understands.
he's thinking about the market. He's thinking about tying up some of that cash as well. I think that comes into play a little bit. To what degree, I'm not really sure. But ultimately, I do think CeeDee will come out and he'll play. I would be surprised if there was a holdout, but you would think that you would at least pay one of these 3 guys, because you can upload a lot of money up front and soften the blow for future years, and then it just gives you more wiggle room for the years to come.
I think CeeDee has to get a contract before this season starts.
Okay.
I really believe in CeeDee Lamb, much more than I believe in Dak. I always like ripping Dak when I can get it in there. Do you think there could be some friction if CeeDee starts this season like he started last season? Do you think there could be some friction there because, hey, he's up for a contract too. He's messing with my money. Friction in the locker room between CeeDee and Dak. If he's not getting the production, like you said, if it's not there and he's not getting it, in my mind, there's a reason there. Like there could be some. Do you think any of that could happen if the season starts back? I know it's a long ways away, probably won't happen, but do you think any of that floats in there if they do go into the season without contracts?
That's difficult to answer, because in some cases, right, if he's double teamed, quarterback has to go another way. That's one thing. But also from a schematic perspective, the coaches know what to do if they're trying to get the ball to a certain player.
Yeah.
So, sometimes these wideouts go to the QB, or they'll go to the coach. Like, hey, why aren't you calling anything for me? They know who these throws are designed to go to. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to imagine where that frustration, if that would go towards a McCarthy or a Dak, type of friction. I would say my guess would be it would likely be a McCarthy thing before it's a Dak thing.
I don't think it'll happen. I do think CeeDee's going to have a monster season, barring injury. I really think you saw after those first 7 games. I think it was after the San Diego game, not San Diego. I guess they're Chargers, LA Chargers now. After that game, he really went forward. He took a leap because the target. So I think that has to happen. I'm not really worried. I do think Dallas and Jerry has shown he loves that number 1 receiver. And I think there's something there with CeeDee Lamb. He's got the 88. I don't think you can let him go. But it's going to be tough. I think it's all going to be tough. I think this upcoming few weeks is going to be very indicative of what Dallas does going forward. I think the draft is going to be huge I want to see what they do. I'm actually really curious. I'm kind of curious. Is it, are they looking to replace Dak? Is it something like that? Where do you go? I don't know how much I could tell you, but I think if they do look at quarterback, you start hearing rumors. Dak may be on the move this season. I don't think it'll happen, but I just, it's been such a bad offseason, Aaron. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like the offseason. But ownership has made their statement by not paying the dollars, by not creating room, by not making
It's
the moves.
you know what's wild? Diggs out of all of them was the first one to get paid. Would really he was the one I would think least, but
right.
Listen, it's a great position to be in, but it's also very frustrating because you know where we're at this season. I think that's the toughest part. You know where you're at, you know what you really need, and you know in the spots you're deficient, you're really deficient, and that's what's tough. I think that's what hurts the most. So man, we just have a lot coming up, right? So next week, I think we're going to be 2 episodes next week. Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, and we'll do that one out. We'll have our kind of draft prospects, kind of the guys we're looking at, the guys that we think could really fall to Dallas and really maybe impact for next season. Be a key contributor on a team that could make a deep run. And then we'll probably be there. 2 weeks. We're going to do it. We'll come up to you with. We'll definitely be live for the draft in 2 weeks. So maybe not, definitely won't be 2 shows next week. I misspoke because I keep thinking it's later in April. But we will be out with our draft prospect show, like I said, and then come draft day, we will go live, kind of like we did last year with you. Those of you that are still with us, kind of just do little couple picks before, come live. Go through with the draft, go who was over, and then kind of go over the guy who we take, kind of like we did last year. So I'm excited to do that. I know Aaron is as well. And Mike, give me a thumbs up over there, buddy. Yeah, buddy. But we really appreciate each and every one of you for listening and joining in. You can catch us again. We'll be on our Facebook. There we go. Oh, he's got the 9. He's got the 9 on. Let's go. You catch us on all our socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, right?
Yep.
And then, give us a follow on our YouTube page. That's where you'll catch all these videos. All videos are YouTube and our Facebook pages. We really appreciate each and every one of you for listening. Also on Spotify, you catch us on Spotify as well. And I guess everywhere you get your podcasting needs. Let's hope CeeDee doesn't hold out. I'm so excited for the draft. I don't know what Dallas will do. You think where they'll go, but we'll be here again next week, draft prospect show, and then we'll be live Thursday on draft day. Appreciate you all. Love you guys. Enjoy your week.